AI tools are available to you. If you've got access to the internet, you've got access to AI. So the question is, what are you going to do with it? And how do you know when to use it? When I provide trainings for teachers, those are two questions that I very regularly get. And that's what we're going to tackle in the next couple of minutes. You can think about your job as a series of workflows. You've got a planning workflow, assessments, resource creation, record keeping, communications. Each of these is a category of tasks, a cycle of activities. And when we think about it that way, and we start figuring out what those tasks and those activities are, that tells us where can we start to use AI, because we're going to use AI for the individual tasks within various teacher workflows. Let's take a quick look first at the question of why bother using AI for those tasks, because using AI is not extra work. It's not like, oh gosh, I have to do all these things and now I've got to use AI also. It's on top of all of this stuff, and I don't have the time or the energy. Well, it's not extra work. Instead, it's a different way to do those tasks that you already are doing. It's a faster way, a clearer way, and in many cases, a more effective way to do all the stuff that you do and do it more quickly and to do it more efficiently and more effectively. Basically, think of it as an expertise multiplier. You know a lot of stuff, but who's got the time and the energy to do all of that stuff that you know how to do? Well, when we use AI to assist with the tasks in the workflows, suddenly you have the time and the assistance and the support that you need to be the expert that you are. Let's take a look at an example. We're going to start with two things. First is we start with a purpose. What are we trying to accomplish? I'm going to do this task. Why am I doing it? What's the point of the task? And only you can decide that. And then we create a prompt, which is the instructions I'm going to give to the AI to help me to accomplish that purpose. So, for example, probably the number one most time-consuming, challenging workflow is the lesson planning process. So what are you going to provide? The topic, information about the students, the goal or purpose of the lesson, and something about the instructional approach. So that's your purpose. And you're going to turn that over and provide that to the AI through a set of instructions. The AI is then going to create a draft lesson, and you're going to then take the lesson, make adjustments, align it to your needs, and make sure it's going to give you what you want. One important point here is that what the AI produces is not the final product. It is an input into a bigger system, because you've got to look at it and say, is this actually going to do what I need it to do, right? So it's not just, here's the instructions and I'll just take whatever you give me. You still have to provide your professional expertise and judgment. But let's take a look at an example. At a minimum, as a minimum viable prompt to AI, I've got in there something about the lesson, 30-minute lesson. I've got a topic. I've got a subject. I've got a standard in there, which is my goal, help kids achieve that standard, and something about the pedagogy, small groups, manipulatives. So that's what I do ahead of time. That's my purpose and my planning. And the instructions then that I turn over to AI. So now AI gets to take a crack at it. And let's see what it does. So here I've got my prompt in here and nothing else. What does the AI do as the second part of that process? Okay. Instructions, what it's going to do. I've got objectives. I've got my materials. I've got detailed lesson structure with warm-up, teacher instructions, direct instruction, guided practice, my role as a teacher, independent practice, on and on and on. I've got everything I need now to conduct this lesson. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at it carefully and say, does this actually align to what my students need? Interestingly, I also have some ideas about how to differentiate for different learner needs. I've got some extension activities for kids who are ready to move on. I've got assessment and more notes. So yes, with just that prompt as a part of my planning workflow, I now have a really good starting point for my lesson plan, which then I will look at and review and make tweaks if I need to, right? So we think about the workflow and the tasks within it, and then we turn over those tasks to the AI with sufficient instruction, obviously. Okay, so let's take a look at another one quickly. Another major workflow that teachers go through is creating instructional supports. And these are all the things that we provide or do to help kids make the most meaning and get the most value out of the instruction. Worksheets, adjustments, graphics, generating problems for them to work on, and things like that. All right, so we've got a workflow, and we determine what the individual tasks are within that workflow, and now we can turn some of those tasks over to AI. So, for example, let's say that I have some kids that need some differentiation. We're going to do some reading in class, some activities, but the reading level is too high for them, so they can't participate. What I need is to take that text and bring it down to a simpler level. And I will tell you, having done that manually, forget about it. Nobody's got time for that. But the AI can do it for me, right? So I provide this instruction, take the text, change it to a second grade reading level, simplified vocabulary and sentence structure. And for this example, I'm using Hatchet by Gary Paulson, and I've uploaded it, which is about the 4th, 5th grade level, something like that. All right. In Moments, what the AI has given me is a simplified version written for approximately the 2nd grade. And now my kids can read it and fully participate in class. I will make a little note. There's a whole nother video about differentiating reading for kids, both those that need some additional support and those that are ready to move on. So if the differentiation piece is useful to you, go take a look at that one. All right, so I've got my whole text here, and I'm going to just skim through because we're not going to read it. All right, all the way down. All right, to the next prompt. All right, which brings us to the next workflow. So there's a workflow around assessments, coming up with problems, figuring out what to do with them, assigning them to the kids, aligning them for articulation, from easiest to most challenging and so forth. Well, those are tasks within the workflow of creating assessments, and we can turn those tasks over to AI. So, assessments, I have some sample tasks that fall into that workflow. Let's grab one of those and see what the AI can do with it. So I need 10 questions, 4th grade multiplication, increasing difficulty, that's the articulation piece, easiest to most challenging, and an idea about what I want it to look like. I've got a sample format there for the AI to follow. So I've got some very clear, specific instructions that align to my purpose, which is why the purpose is where we start. And then the instructions. All right, so can the AI do it? Well, yes, obviously. So here we've got it, and now we have 10 questions, from simplest 3 times 4 all the way up to more challenging 46 by 9. And the nice thing is, when I do it like this, I can see where the kids start to create errors and have problems, and then I know what to teach next. There's another video about formative assessments that you might want to take a look at and their value. The point is this, though. We have a purpose. We're going to try to make one of our workflows more efficient, so we look at the subtasks within that workflow and we turn them over to AI with a good prompt. And that's what do we use it for, and how do we know when to use AI? Think about workflows, define the tasks, and then provide the instructions to AI. I hope you found this useful. Take care.